Just about every week on this program, we tell you about another state passing restrictions on a woman's right to choose. Louisiana, it is just the latest. And in Missouri, there is a court battle as we speak for the last clinic that actually performs the procedure battles to keep its license. The Louisiana governor is expected to sign into law a bill banning abortions as early as 6 weeks into a pregnancy, but that still doesn't mean it's a done deal. The law would outlaw abortions whenever doctors can detect a fetal heartbeat, even in cases of rape or incest. But the way that the law is written, it is tied to the fate of an almost identical law in Mississippi, the so-called heartbeat law, already being challenged in federal court. In fact, similar laws passed in other states, including Georgia, Ohio, and Missouri, they're also being fought in court. The legal battle is now closely being watched by those who could deal a big blow to Georgia's economy. This week, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, has joined the heads of Netflix and other major studios, saying it would be, quote, very difficult to keep film production in Georgia should the new abortion ban go into effect. Hollywood stars and other celebrities, they've also threatened to stop working in that state.
Abortion access is under attack. What do we do? Stand up like that.
Meanwhile, in Missouri, Planned Parenthood was in court Thursday asking a federal judge to intervene before the state's only abortion clinic is shut down on Friday.
We do not want to be the first state in the nation to lose access to safe, legal abortion, and that's what the state is trying to do, and we saw that in court today.
Court is done for today, and a ruling is expected tomorrow. And joining me now is President of the National Organization for Women, now Toni Van Pelt. Toni, thank you for the time.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show.
So give me your reaction, I guess on a couple fronts, with the Supreme Court deciding not to take a certain case, but also in another one as related to fetal remains, mandating that the aborted fetus had to get a burial, and obviously raising questions about personhood and where that will go. Do you feel you read any tea leaves from the court about what they decided to hear and not hear as to where they are on this issue in terms of eventually upholding Roe?
Well, I think that their strategy is fairly well known, that they are not planning on actually overturning Roe. They're just gutting Roe so that it's essentially will be a law with no teeth in it whatsoever. And certainly as far as the removal of medical waste, that's an undue burden on women. It's a financial and an emotional burden that is just so unnecessary and so cruel to women.
You go through state by state, and I've said this before to a lot of our viewers along the East Coast, this not really an issue. In fact, you can argue rights have been expanded in recent years, but it almost seems as to if you cross a certain border, especially if you're a woman, your rights radically change. Talk about, from a practical level, people hear about fetal heartbeat and different rules being put in. I mean, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. In essence, and as much as you can put a human face on it, what is that doing to women's, from a practical thing, really their choice at all in the matter?
They really are trying to stop women having access to abortion care, to sex education, to birth control. This is all about power and control. This really has nothing to do with anything other than that. It's just simply wrong, and it has to stop. And it will matter on where you live. And the people that are going to suffer the most, the women that will suffer the most, are the women who live in poverty and women of color. Women that have some money can cross those borders, may have the time to go to another state, or their private physician may be able to perform abortion for them, and they wouldn't have to go to a clinic.
You know, we look at Missouri, Toni, we could literally be seeing the only clinic in the entire state go away. I don't think I'm exaggerating or being too crass. We go back to the coat hanger days. I mean, the idea for people looking to protect the child here, the unborn child, they, whether intentionally or unintentionally, could be creating, something you don't have to look that far back in history to know the consequences.
Well, in my lifetime, I had an illegal abortion, a back alley abortion. I lost an aunt. She died from an illegal abortion. I had another aunt who was butchered during an illegal abortion and could not have any children. This is not a, this is about women. This is about women's lives. When you talk about a heartbeat, let's talk about the heartbeat of that woman and how important that is to her and her family. We've got to support parents in the decisions that they are making about their lives, and we have to support a woman to make the right decision for herself. We can't second guess that.
There's been the beginnings of a movement of share your story. The premise behind it, that a lot more women, including your neighbors, your family members, etc., have had the procedure themselves, but obviously haven't broadcast it because it's no one's business but their own. The idea behind it is be more public, share your story, talk about the situation surrounding it, etc., and put a human face on it and let people know that it is people that would be impacted, not just an amorphous stranger. Do you think that that is going to get legs, and do you think it's important, if you're going to ever change, especially in red states here, the perception of who is actually having abortions in this country?
Yes, I really do think that that's true. I just read a story this morning that the religious group that has the most abortions are actually these evangelical Christians. And I do think it's really important to tell your story. 1 in 4 women are going to have an abortion, whether it's legal or not, before the age of 45. And they have especially the religious conservatives, have tried to heap guilt and shame on this, on abortion care. And there is no guilt and there is no shame in this. And women are finally realizing that they have to speak out. The Me Too movement and around sexual harassment, sexual assault is also, I think, going to help more women come forward and tell their stories and say, yes, I did have an abortion. Yes, it was important to my family. Yes, it was for my own health, or because I was raped, or because I had a family member that assaulted me. I do think it's important. The more these stories are shared, the more acceptable abortion will be.
Finally, do you think there's an inevitability, Toni, that the court, and when I say the court, the Supreme Court obviously, is going to have to put some clarity to this? Or do you think we're just going to have a patchwork, state by state, blue and red, and basically deciding which states women have rights in and which ones they don't? At the end, will we have a universal standard in this country or not?
Once these generations of young women that have only known abortion to be legal realize what it's like when it's illegal, once that happens, then I think there'll be a huge backlash, and that it will be the standard of the entire country. I do want to tell you one story, and it's a personal story. When I was 7 years old, my mom was pregnant and due to give birth to her 4th child. And she had been told that she should not have any more children after her 2nd child. I'm her eldest child. And because of the risk to her life. But birth control was illegal then. And my father's family was Catholic, and so she was forced to continue her pregnancies. And they decided finally that upon the birth of her 4th child, they would sterilize her. But to do that, she had to get 2 doctors to sign off. She had to get the hospital's permission. My dad had to be all prearranged and set up. My dad had to appear in court in the state of Ohio with these documents and with these representatives by his side to get a doctor to give permission for my mother to be sterilized. And all this was going on as she was being rolled in to give delivery for her. It could only happen right after she gave birth. And that's what we're going to go back to. And I knew at 7 years old that that was wrong, that my mother was more important than anything else in the world. And she was the most important thing to me and to my family. So this is a cautionary tale.
Toni Van Pelt, thank you for both your time and also sharing your stories. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And when we come back, we will shift gears. A young woman taken to a hospital after she was hit by a line drive at the Cubs-Astros game last night. Baseball recently requiring more protective netting at ballparks, but is it time to even extend it further? We'll actually go out live to Yankee Stadium, where the Yanks and the Sox are preparing to play, and we'll talk to our man on the scene. Stay with us.